Hello, you're very welcome along to a European Champions Cup special here in Setanta with the madness of the Six Nations behind us. We're very much looking ahead now to the quarter-final between Leinster and Bath on April 4th, and it's a game you'll be able to watch live with us here on Setanta. To look ahead to it and preview it, we're joined by two men who'll be directly involved. We have Ian Madigan of Leinster and we have Peter Stringer of Bath. As that's still very strange to say, Peter Stringer of Bath. Does it feel like Peter Stringer of Bath?
It is strange. It's, I suppose, played most of my career at Munster over the years, 15 years. Playing at Bath now for the last 2 seasons. Firmly a Bath player,
yeah.
Even though it does sound a bit strange when people say it, but it's been exciting, great time over there, and looking forward to a massive game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear about your time at Bath, but we've got to talk to you, Ian, about the Six Nations and just the maddest finale that any of us can remember. I presume it's the first tournament you've won in your suit and tie, watching?
Yeah, it was. It was very funny to be out in the pitch in our suits. To be spraying champagne over each other in suits as opposed to jerseys was something I haven't experienced, but
yeah.
It was just as enjoyable, even though we were left sticky for the rest of the night.
Like Robbie Henshaw's 21st, I think, was Paul O'Connell's description. That experience, because I heard Devin Toner speaking about it. You watched the first half in the tunnel and then went in for the big gala dinner and watched it on a big screen. Is that downright awful? Is that a terrible experience, or was it bizarrely exciting?
It was exciting at times when France were winning 15-7. It was very exciting,
yeah.
And then when England gradually started coming back, and it was turning into a bit of a nightmare. And just the whole time you were trying to work out the maths in your head. What exactly did England need in the second half? And Joe had made it very clear to us beforehand that not to be going too mad at the dinner, cheering England or cheering France on
right.
too much or anything like that. And there was a group of us queuing up at the buffet to get a bit of dinner, and just after half time France scored, and we all went, yes, thank God. And even Joe did, and then straight away he just looked at us, he goes, no tells.
No tells?
No tells.
As in, don't give the opposition any signals
don't
of
be
your
giving
mood.
anything away. But
right.
When Nigel Owens awarded the last penalty, we were all jumping up and down and hugging each other, and then someone spotted in the background that that Huget had tapped and went, and then we were all going nuts again.
Yeah.
So, but no,
it was like a man trolling an entire country when he tapped and ran it. What are you doing?
Thank God. I think it was Cockett kicked it out in the end. And,
yeah.
I'll have to thank him the next time I see him.
Yeah. Can I ask you, without wanting to bring up a bad memory for you or systematically destroy your confidence here, but you missed that kick at the end of the game, and I guess for a period of the England-France game, that wasn't such a big deal, but as we drifted into the final 10 minutes and 5 minutes, I suspect it was on your mind. Oh,
it was on my mind. Even taking the kick, I knew every point matters. And there's a few guys, not overly celebrating after the game, but obviously delighted. But I felt pretty shook straight away, and I knew that if it came down to England covering the difference by 27 points,
yeah.
That I'd probably be the fall guy. And myself and Johnny Sexton had an embrace after the game, because as he said, he missed a kick that was kind of uncharacteristic, and he put his arm around me in the change room and said, look here, it's based over a tournament, and
yeah.
and it's not just one kick.
And while intellectually you would have understood that and everyone would understand that, it still, I suspect, would have really hung with you for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and like, to be honest, it still does hang with me, just because we won the tournament. I won't park missing the kick. I'll still address why I missed the kick, and I had a good chat with Richie, our kicking coach, and he said to me, you really learn a lot from the kicks you miss, not just the ones you get. And I don't know, I'm sure Strings knows from playing many a game in Murrayfield. It's a kind of a tricky wind, and I thought the wind was blowing left to right, and kicked the ball down the centre of the post, expecting it to stay straight, and the wind to hit it and bring it back in. And
right.
Whatever happened, maybe it just stopped blowing for a moment, and the ball just drifted slightly wide. But
yeah,
it's something that hopefully I'll address and get right this Friday against Glasgow.
Yeah. Where did you watch it, Peter?
I watched it in Spain. I was I was over tasting the menu for my wedding in the summer. So I was over there and managed to find it in a in a remote hotel in the middle of nowhere, and I asked the manager of the hotel to tune it into the satellite, and a few disgruntled soccer supporters were in the bar who didn't fancy watching Ireland against Scotland.
Right, okay.
So we bullied them out of it and watched it there, and yeah, it was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever experienced a final day like it.
Yeah.
When 3 teams could have finished on top and it came down to points difference was just it was incredible.
What's it like for you watching Ireland at this stage? I guess there's not the immediacy of missing out on the World Cup in 2011, when I suspect it was very difficult, but still you're fit, you're healthy, you're playing away. So I don't know if there's some kind of 5 stages of grief to leaving it behind you. Where are you when it comes to watching Ireland?
Yeah, it's difficult. Initially, obviously.
Still? Oh, start. Yeah, go on.
No, just initially it is tough. I suppose for as long as I'm playing the game and ambition to play at the highest level, you always have that dream of playing for your country, and that never leaves you. It hasn't left me, and I see that as something that I cling on to for as long as I'm playing. So that's what motivates me to continue playing. I still feel great. I'm in good shape, look after myself, but ultimately you want to play for your country, and having been there before, knowing what it's like, experiencing the highs, being with the guys, representing your country, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So for me, it's tough watching matches. I think initially you probably wouldn't watch games at all when I first finished playing.
Like I would say, did you watch the 2011 World Cup games?
I don't think I did. I did. It was, it's really tough. You because you're so close to the team, and at that early stage, you really feel that you want to be out there. As the years go on, your buddies are still playing. You look out for them. You want them to do well, and as a country, you want to see Ireland succeed. And as much as it's painful not to be out there yourself, you're in the end you're wishing the team that they do well. So to see them to win at the weekend was incredible.
Have you been to a game live, sat in the crowd?
I actually went to my first game that I went to was the English game a few weeks ago.
Right.
That was the first game that I went to since I had last played, which was, I didn't really enjoy it. It was a kind of a thing where I was looking at it, I could 100% appreciate the talent that went into identifying England's weaknesses, the skill that went into, I suppose, looking at the kicking game and the breakdown, and from a point of view of a player, I could see that. Probably from a spectator's point of view, it probably wasn't the most entertaining of games.
But it was for those reasons that you didn't enjoy it, as opposed to looking out there thinking, I still really want to be out there.
Yeah, there's always that as well.
There's still that there.
There's still that there, and that I don't know whether that ever leaves. For as long as you're playing anyway, I don't see that leaving. I think when you come to terms with the fact that whenever you're going to retire and whenever you finish playing, that then you can fully sit back, relax, go to games, just relax, enjoy it, and not look at it through, I suppose, a player's point of view and wishing you were out there.
What would I have done there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is probably not an easy question to answer, and I presume there's a multitude of reasons, but why is it working so well at the moment with Ireland under Joe Schmidt? Can you put your finger on it?
I think everyone really buys into his game plan. They believe that if the team goes out and executes on what he has planned out, that we have a very good chance of winning. And it's not just Joe Schmidt. I think Les Kiss has done fantastic work defensively, and
I think we've conceded 56 points in the championship. England are the next best with 100. We pretty much have the best defence in world rugby.
No, our defence is tough to break down. Obviously I've been behind Johnny, so a lot of the time when I'm in training, I'll be training with the second side, trying to break down the team that's starting that weekend, and I'll be walking back into Carton House after training, raking my brains, thinking, am I good enough? Why can't I break these guys down? And it's almost a vote of confidence for me when I see big teams like France and England going out and only one try between the two of them against Ireland. So
it's not just me who can't break them down.
No, it's not just me, although I'll keep trying.
Yeah. And are you a frustrated spectator when you're watching on the bench and watching Johnny? Obviously he's very good and everyone's aware of that. Do you have to be frustrated as a top player to watch him still?
I wouldn't call it frustration. obviously have ambition to start, be it at out half or in the centre for Ireland. And when you're picked to be in the 23, you can't be going in frustrated. You've got to be going in thinking what value can you add to the team. And even though I'd be sitting on the bench, I'd still be playing the game and be thinking, what would I be doing now?
Yes.
As I'm watching the game, what play would I be calling next? Or
it's the mark of a good substitute, I suppose, to be in the game. If they can be in the game, you can't be away with the fairies and then come on.
You need to be, because there could be an injury after 5 minutes. You could find yourself right in the mix, and I suppose it's difficult in the week leading up to the game that you're not running with the team that often. You're trying to fill in as often as you can, just so that come game time, if you are needed to step in, that you're just on point straight away. And that's I suppose the mark of a professional, to be ready at every opportunity.
Yeah, it takes just game intelligence, discipline, all the boring stuff that's really important. That's brilliant stuff, lads. We are here to look ahead to Leinster against Bath in the European Champions Cup. It's a game you can see live here in the Setanta Sports Pack. And up next, we're going to talk to Peter about life in Bath. Yeah, you're very welcome back. European Champions Cup special here on Setanta Sports. You'll be able to watch Leinster against Bath on April 4th on the Setanta Sports Pack. And two men who'll be involved are with us here in studio. We've Ian Madigan of Leinster and Peter Stringer of Bath. Peter, the decision to go to Bath, I saw you talking about it, and you made the point really that it allowed you to reinvent yourself a little bit, not just on the field, but even off the field as a person. You're starting fresh with everyone, which sounds like quite an appealing thing in many ways, to go and do that after 15, 16 seasons in the one place in your home area. So was that a part of the decision to try something new from a life perspective, or was this all about rugby?
Purely rugby initially. It was a case, I suppose, at a stage in my career where I still felt that I had a lot to offer to the team and to the squad at Munster, and just felt at the stage that I was at, I wasn't getting an opportunity to play that often. Found myself in the fringes and not involved in the matchday squad. You can do all your training during the week, but you want to be out there on the weekend. So that was frustrating. I suppose the opportunity then came when I got a phone call from Bath, from Gary Gold, who was a coach who had brought me to Newcastle on loan for a spell in the previous season. So Gary had been in touch and said that Michael Claessen's, the scrum half, got injured, and would I be interested in going over? And I said 100%. It was an opportunity to play in the Premiership again. It was just about getting back out on the pitch for me. And I'd experienced that with Sarries and Newcastle previous seasons. Just getting out, being somewhere new. And like you mentioned, I've said before, it's about reinventing yourself. You can go to these places. Nobody knows the character that you are. You can be who you want to be. I'd been nearly, I suppose, institutionalised in one way when I was at home for so many years. Everyone knows the person that I am, and it was so refreshing to go somewhere new, where nobody really knew what I was like, and just start fresh, new place, start with a new team, and just saw it as a really fresh challenge.
Are you a slightly different person in Bath then to the person that you were in the Munster dressing room? Is it that extreme? Are you like tweeting philosophy like Joey Barton? Are you the smart guy or the joker now? or how
no,
would you
I probably was a bit of a joker before at Munster, but I think when I moved away, I really brought, I suppose, the knowledge that I've learned over the years within that environment with Munster and Ireland. You know, because there's a lot of the same players I would have grown up with and played with over the years, and you learned, you know, I suppose everyone learns the same thing from the coaches that we're involved with. So when you go to somewhere new and you try and pass on that information, and you realise actually a lot of these new guys, they don't know exactly what you've picked up over the years, and that's quite refreshing, and you become nearly a coach on the pitch. And I suppose that transition for me, being I suppose some bit in the background before, you know, I really kind of stood out and tried to take a bit more of a centre stage and kind of just implement my kind of learning that I've done over the years onto the pitch with Bath and with Sarries or whoever it may be. So yeah, definitely from a character point of view, it helped me develop and just get out of that, I suppose, routine of being that kind of joker, just kind of sitting in the background a small bit, but just coming out of my shell a small bit.
Right, okay. Because there's such huge totemic figures at Munster like Paul O'Connell and a huge brains trust there. Maybe Bath needed your leadership a bit more. They were more receptive to that approach from you as well?
Yeah, maybe. I think I'd worked with Gary, like I mentioned, at Newcastle, and he brought me in, and he was very keen to get me over whenever I had an opportunity, and the injury worked out well for me in getting me over. So he knew my experience, and he'd worked with me for the previous 6 months at the end of the last season. So it was nice to get into a setup where there was a lot of young guys coming through.
Yeah.
And naturally I felt that, you know, in that kind of a mentoring role to these young guys, and it was a natural progression really from the things I'd learnt over the years. I was able to pass on, and whether it was a scrum half, and you know, you see little things that you can kind of fix, and you kind of you might do this differently, and you know, just little things which kind of help in the long run to the development of the whole team. So it's it's just happened naturally with, I suppose, the experience that I've had.
Quite an enjoyable thing. Yeah,
it really is. I enjoy it, and it's probably something that, you know, I would like to stay in, you know, after the game with coaching and bring those traits forward.
Yeah. Who were the real mentors or leaders for you at Leinster when you were first breaking through? The guys who, like Peter says there, were giving the scrum half some tips. Who were giving you a dig out?
It's been a few. Coming through school, Luke Fitzgerald was always someone who was a year ahead of me in school, and he kind of set the benchmark for, you know, across the board. You know, be it in the gym or on the pitch or his lifestyle. He was, you know, he's a consummate professional. And I remember being about 15 or 16 and thinking, if I can copy Luke and get close to his standard, I won't be too far off. You know, being able to be a professional myself. And then, you know, once I joined the club, Easton Sea was someone who I really looked up to, and he, you know, epitomised the culture in Leinster, and he was someone who I got to play a huge amount with. So, you know, in the years I was kind of breaking into the Leinster squad, and you know, kind of 2010, 2011, my opportunities would have come when the internationals would have been away, or you know, the less glamorous fixtures, you know, in the Guinness Pro 12, like maybe Glasgow away or Dragons away, those kind of matches, and East would have always been playing in them. And, he was a great man for, you know, reviewing footage with me and you know, telling me what I could have worked on or what I was doing well. And he's someone who I've kept in contact with since he's left Leinster, and someone whose opinion I really value. And then of the current crop, someone like Owen Redden is you know, a real smart guy, and he understands the game very well. And he's almost like an extra coach. He's like a player coach at times. Right. And someone who I really look up to. So it's probably those three at kind of different stages as I've broken into the Leinster team. Yeah.
Is it something you've thought about yourself at any stage, going further afield, experience a different culture, different team?
Yeah, you know, I think in professional sport, you know, you'd be naive to rule out moving to another club. You know, I'm really happy in Leinster, you know, and the last contract I signed was 3 years, which, you know, I think indicated that I wanted to stay there. And but you don't know what could happen. You can fall out of favour with a coach, or you could get an injury, or you know, they could bring in someone, you know, who's starting ahead of you, and you know, when your contract's up, you've got to review all of that. And you know, if the time comes that I've got to move across to the UK or to France or to play, you know, in another province in Ireland, you know, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. But at the moment, Leinster's the club I want to be playing for.
Because I think people would look at your situation and you've made it very clear that ultimately you'd love to play 10. And I think you've done it in a very open, mature way. It's not been I want to play 10 or else kind of a strop. You know, you've said I'm happy to dig in for the team, but ideally I'd like to play 10. And so you look at someone like JJ Hanrahan, who's made the move, and I think people have looked at you with Sexton's return and thought, is that something that Madigan might be looking at?
Yeah, you know, I really respect JJ's move. You know, he's decided that, you know, he's picked a really good club in the UK, and he's going to back himself to start over in Northampton. And for me, obviously, when Johnny moved to Racing, I really wanted to make that 10 shirt my own in Leinster, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. But this year I've been playing 12 quite a lot, and it's probably been my most enjoyable year, you know, as a professional. And,
right.
You know, the posts are always changing in professional sport, and now that Johnny's coming back to Leinster, I'd obviously be thinking further down the line. You know, how can I fit into the Leinster team? And you know, realistically, that probably is playing at 12. And
would you look back, say we're talking in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and you've had 8 great years playing at 12? Would you look back on that as not disaster, obviously, but would you look back on that with some kind of regret, or would you be okay with that?
No, if I'd 7 or 8 years more playing at 12 in Leinster, I think I'd be pretty happy.
Okay, so it's not I need to do it at a certain point.
No, it's about fitting in, and you know, as Strings was saying earlier, you know, the bigger picture is you want to be playing for Ireland as well. And you know, if I was sitting on the bench for Leinster covering out half, you know, I'm not going to be breaking into the Irish team. And you know, when Johnny does come back, I'll be hoping to fit in alongside him and you know, put my best foot forward that way.
Yeah. What advice would you give to JJ Hanrahan, Peter, or anyone who's made the jump across?
Yeah, obviously it's a decision he's made, and I think in the position that he was in with Munster, he wasn't getting game time. I think particularly in the 10 shirt that he's looking at.
Yeah.
You know, he's filling in at 12, 15 at certain cases. Like, it's different from Ian's point of view. He's a key component within the Irish squad now, and I suppose he's got that factor, you know, to consider as well. You know, potentially if he was to go, but you know, JJ saw it as an opportunity to get over, and like Ian said, the top side in England in the last couple of seasons, and if he gets a starting spot there, you know, that's going to help his game massively in a position that he wants to play in. And, you know, I've played and trained with JJ, and he's a really talented guy. I think he just needs pitch time in that position, and if that works out for him in the UK, then there's opportunities, I'm sure, that teams back in Ireland want to get him back.
Yeah. You've enjoyed your time off the field there. Like, I think you were saying that you've decided to live in Bath, in the centre of town. Yeah. It's a beautiful town by all accounts. And really throw yourself into life off the pitch there. Yeah,
I think I moved over with my fiancée, and we just wanted to embrace the whole experience, live in town. It's so unique in that the stadium is right in the middle of town, and it's a lovely city. So I wanted to be in town and just to get to know the area, get to know people, the surroundings, and just experience the city to the fullest. You know. Yeah.
How does the rugby culture compare to if you're strolling around Limerick or Cork for an afternoon?
Yeah, it's not as intense, to be honest with you. It's a small bit more relaxing, even though they're a rugby-loving city, very much, you know, like Limerick, but slightly less intrusive, and I don't mean that in a bad way, and slagging off people in Limerick, but you can go and do your shopping in peace. You can walk down the street, and you know, at times, you know, you miss that as well. But it's just completely different. Even though they're very knowledgeable on the game as well, and they won't be afraid to pick you up on different things if you don't perform well at a weekend. But it's it's different, but very enjoyable. I must say, very enjoyable.
Yeah. And so your time there is coming to an end because it's just so competitive. Yeah. I think there's 3 or 4 there's scrum halves now for next season. So I think they were quite genuine in the way they said we're really sad to all his experience to say goodbye to it. You do want to keep playing though. Like, this is not retirement in May.
No, not at all. And it's a case where, you know, I had a chat with Bath, and they were keen to hold on to me in a kind of a mentoring, coaching role, which I don't feel I'm ready for yet. I'm just not ready to hang up the boots. I would still want to play. So it's a difficult one. I suppose for the first time in my career, I'm looking at it. you know, you've rolling contracts, and I've had rolling contracts all my career, and it's the first time that I'm out there really looking for something and looking for the right thing. I want to be at an ambitious club. I want to be playing with guys who are looking to win trophies and who want to succeed. So that's the next thing for me, is to try and identify the place where I want to go. And I suppose I'm lucky enough that I'm willing to travel anywhere. The two of us, myself and my fiance, were, you know, see it as, you know, a little adventure for the rest of the year, the few years that I'm playing. Yeah. So it's about finding the right place, making the most of it while I have time left on the pitch, and see where that takes us. That's
interesting what you said about finding the right club and that has the ambition. I presume you'd find it horribly frustrating after playing in the great teams that you've played upon to join a team where the culture wasn't right, where shortcuts were being taken, where you would almost have to influence that side of things. You want to go in somewhere where things are done the right way, I presume. Yeah,
it's being involved with Munster over the years and Ireland, and I think the work ethic with the teams in Ireland are, you know, up there with the best teams in the world. And I think in moving to the UK, you can see it in glimpses. But to move to somewhere else where you're constantly trying to get the best out of guys, naturally that came to guys in the teams that I've been involved with. And, you know, from a professional's point of view, you don't have to try and get the best out of too many people. And I do become frustrated with guys who are, when you see guys cutting corners, who are not doing kind of extras after training. And from professional's point of view, that's so frustrating. I'm sure Ian's the same, when you see guys, you know, constantly trying to say to guys, you know, do you want to hang on the pitch here for a minute, do an extra bit of kicking or passing or whatever it may be, and you see guys running off the pitch. But yeah, I think it needs to be the right place, like I've said, to find somewhere that is settling for mediocrity is not what I want. It's not what I want out of the game for the remaining years that I have left. It's, like I said, to find somewhere that wants to win trophies and is, I suppose, is full of enthusiastic people who want to perform at the highest level. Yeah. So
there's a very good culture at Leinster.
I believe there is. I believe there is. It's Ian was telling me about it earlier.
Because the Leinster rumours popped up last month.
It did. It did. Yeah, the first I heard of it was when it just blew up on Twitter and media with, I can't remember which journalist had asked Matt O'Connor about me, and whatever Matt's response was, saying, yeah, I'm sure we'd look at Peter and we'd look at other scrum halves, but since then it's just seemed to blow up. But, you know, like Ian has mentioned, you know, you're not going to rule out any team. It's a job for me. Want to make the most of the last few years that I have. So I look at all options, and you know, I certainly wouldn't rule out anything.
Okay, great stuff. We're going to take a quick break. We're building up to Leinster against Bath in the European Champions Cup. April 4th, date of that game, quarter-final. And it's a game you'll be able to see live here on the Setanta Sports Pack. So more thoughts from the lads ahead of that game next. How you doing? You're very welcome back to our European Champions Cup quarter-final special. Leinster against Bath on April the 4th is a game you'll be able to see live here on the Setanta Sports Pack, and we're building up to it with two guys who'll be directly involved. We've Ian Madigan and Peter Stringer with us, and I guess, Ian, there's more focus and more tension on rugby than there's ever been, and you guys have to be better prepared than there's ever been. There's guys like Jamie Heaslip who get away from rugby and don't watch much rugby, and I spoke to you a couple of months ago and you were saying that you are an anorak pretty much. You're watching a game of rugby if there's a game of rugby on.
Yeah, I enjoy watching it. Even if it's not rugby union, I watch a game of rugby league, and you know, even pick up small things like tackle technique or stuff like that. But it's a massive part of my preparation, and the detail I go into. Like for example, if we were playing when we played Harlequins in the Champions Cup, was some, you know, a player like Mike Brown. I'd analyse how he counterattacks, and he's the kind of player you catch it with 5 yards from the touchline. He drifts into the 15-metre line, steps back hard, tries to find a tight 5 forward and outrun him.
Yeah.
So if I'm running up in the defensive line and I'm looking around to see who's with me and who he might try and pick out and outrun, and that's the kind of detail that's come into the game now. And
does that tend to pay off? Do you find yourself on the pitch going, wow, that was exactly what I saw him do the other night on TV, and he's done it, and I've nailed him?
I think we are creatures of habit, and the really, really good players have more tricks as such and more things that they can go to. And you have some players who have a really good right foot step, then you have other players who have a really good right foot step and a left foot step. Another player who's got both and can hit and spin, or can paddle step. There's so many.
So what does Stringer do?
He plays a fast tempo game. Like you're just trying to chase his tail. That's what you're trying to do.
No, I think it's true though. Like when you analyse guys, I think the guys who are going to step off their left foot, you see it over and over again. You've watched it so many times. But it's difficult. The difficulty obviously then is the fellas who, like you say, can jump and can step off either foot, and you just don't know. Then it's just pretty much staying on your own toes and picking the right side. But all those little things. The game has just developed so much with the analysis. When I first started, there was no video analysis whatsoever. It was just you'd watch a tape, a video of the game, go through it. You'd pause it and watch again. But there'd be no individual analysis done. Now there's movies done on each player, and like Ian said, like on which foot they step off, which hand they carry the ball, and which arm they fend with. So the detail has gone.
Would you know that about yourself? Have you ever had someone analyse you for weaknesses? Someone said to you, "You always step off your right foot." I don't know if you realise that.
Yeah, I did it before with Alan Gaffney. Obviously, he'd worked with Leinster and Munster, and when he came to coach us, I did it with him, and I said, "Can you speak to me and as though you're analysing me from an opposition point of view?" And which you find so much out about yourself.
What did you find out?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. Fair point, given the week that's in it. But did you find something out about yourself and go, oh, I need to change that, and then subsequently did change it?
Yeah, I think at certain times my approach to rucks, it might have been the angle that I would have approached that wouldn't have given me the vision to see on both sides. So you change your approach to it, so you can identify the kind of pillars on both sides of the ruck, so you can kind of look up and see a bit better. Different things like that. I suppose looking at videos of myself and my support lines, it would have been quite deep, which probably would have been longer if there was any line break and getting support for the offload. So you work on a shallow line of working with those centres if you're going to get over that gain line. So just little things like that where you probably spend a lot of time analysing opposition and the team as a whole. But when you actually do it on yourself, it's you find out a lot about yourself.
Have you ever had it done to yourself?
To a certain extent, Joe would be very good at giving you feedback and what you're good at and what you need to work on. And sometimes when you're playing against a team, you could have them calling out, watch his right foot step, or watch him show and go, watch the dummy, or whatever it might be.
Make you feel a bit self-conscious as you fall in their calling.
Yes, small, but then you can use stuff like that to your advantage then as well, and hopefully create more space for players outside you. But like what we talked about earlier, like when you come up against a really good player who, like we said, can step off both feet, can hit and spin, can do all that.
Yeah.
You defend him differently. You'll almost defend him with two guys then. You might sit a defender on his outside shoulder, and then if he steps you back on the inside, you've got a guy waiting for him. So that part of the analysis is really big. So you try and nullify their best players.
Yeah. So when you're watching a game, and it's funny, I spoke to you in January, and just by coincidence you would watch Bath against Toulouse without knowing that you were going to be coming against Bath, and you were watching, say, George Ford, and I think you were saying you might press pause when he's in certain situations, see what he has on, guess what you do in that situation, press play, see if you're right. Like, it's that level of nerdism going on. Yeah,
like a lot. Certain teams would have certain shapes that they go to. So a simple thing like someone running a dummy switch to the person outside running a hard line, and then an option out the back. So you'd pause and see, could he have given it to the guy who was running the switch? No, he's defended. Then he's got the short guy running. Could he have given to him? No, he's defended. Could he have given it out the back? No.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, he could have gone himself there.
Yeah.
You know, so then you look at the next play and, you know, weigh up the different options. Now, like the way the defences are these days, they're getting harder and harder to break down. So one of my big philosophies would be to try and make, you know, the team we're playing against make good defensive decisions consistently, and in the hope that they're going to get it wrong eventually. So if you just keep testing them, keep forcing them to make the right decisions, that hopefully you'll catch them out eventually, and that might be the time that you come up with 7 points.
Right, okay. So these are your fun Friday nights in the Madigan household. Yeah,
exactly.
Are you in that league, Peter? Do you watch rugby all the time?
I'm not a nerd like that. No.
Right.
No, I wouldn't.
Is this the trash talking ahead of the game kicking off here?
I would watch a lot of rugby. I'd watch a lot of the Premiership games. I'd try and get to see a lot of the Pro 12 games, and now the Super 15 starting. And I suppose we were talking about it earlier, but I actually do watch a lot of rugby, even though I probably didn't think I did at the time.
Yeah.
If there's a game on, I'll watch. If there's 2 or 3 games on in a row, I'll watch it again. I watch rugby league.
For enjoyment, or is it work?
It's enjoyment. I think when we spend so much time, I suppose, on computers analysing our own game, opposition. You know, we're in at work at 8 o'clock and you leave at 4. A lot of that would be meetings, and it'd be quite intense in preparation for the weekend. So I'd watch games, say on a Friday evening if we were playing on a Saturday. I would watch a game on a Friday night, and it would be, you'd take bits out of it, but it would be from, I think, an enjoyment point of view from just watching a rugby game.
Yes, okay.
And like obviously, like Ian is talking about, the detail that they go into there, and that's just the nature of the game now. You've got to keep up with the times, and the analysis that goes into it is incredible. It
strikes me with you, Ian, that it doesn't feel like work to you, that you're actually fascinated by this stuff.
Yeah, I'd also be looking at these players going, geez, that's really good. I wonder, could I try and do that, or could I add that into my game? Or, geez, like someone like George Ford, like, oh, he disguised that pass really well. So you're looking at other players thinking, can I add that to my own game? And the good thing as well with rugby, you know, you might play against Cardiff early in the season and you do a lot of video work for that, and then you're playing against Wales in the Six Nations, and you're coming up against those same players again. Yeah. So you've done the video work on them, and then you're playing them for a second time later on, for a third time later on in the season. So it's not like you have to do it for 15 players for every single game.
Yeah.
So
you have a body of work there.
The more work you do early on, you know, it really stands to you.
It's great that you're still as into it, Peter, after 17, 18 seasons. And I was reading even just in the last year or so, you've given up dairy, you've given up wheat, you've never taken a drink. This is very impressive stuff.
Yeah, pretty boring, isn't it? Just in the last 3 years, I've always tried to look after myself, and I suppose just to make the most of the career that I have and the time that I've left in the game. The last 2 or 3 years, I've just, even for me, just taken it to a new level, and it's a bit of an obsession with nutrition.
So give us your daily regimen.
Initially, I went for a food intolerance test done because I knew something was playing up in my stomach. It was just something wasn't right, and it came back that wheat and dairy were 2 triggers for me. So since I cut those out, it just felt so much better. It's just general day to day, just feeling really good, more energetic, just the will to go and train on my days off and just get more work done, and I feel better the more work that I actually do nowadays, which is quite unusual, I think. But it's day to day I'm just pretty strict. The joy, I suppose, of training in Bath, we've a setup which is really professional. There's 4 full-time chefs at the club, so they cater for all dietary requirements. So a lot of guys might have an egg allergy, whatever, but it's each player's meal is tailored to its needs. It's incredible. So for me, you know, they use different milk and just eggs without milk, and it's just it's incredible. Yeah,
it's one of the great benefits of being a professional. To have
it is. Stuff, and I think that if they look after the players and to make sure the players do their work, then hopefully that will translate onto the pitch at the weekend, and that's the mindset behind it.
Yeah, is it important to decompress from it all? to not think about rugby for 24, 48 hours, or do you ever feel that need?
Oh yeah, I think if you don't have a switch off, you'll burn out, very quickly. And,
yeah. What do you get up to, or is there anything in particular?
Yeah, if the weather was good, I'd go out for a round of golf, or a few of us are into horse racing, might go down and spend a day out at the races, or go to the cinema and watch a movie, and
the usual stuff, really.
Yeah, the usual stuff. Go out for a nice meal, that kind of thing. But no, it's very important you're able to switch off. Do
you find it easy to do that? Like, will you, not to bring it up again, but say for instance, kick against Scotland? Will that be a reoccurring thing in your head for a week or two now, or is it easy to put that to bed?
Yeah, no, there will be times when I think about it, and like I was going out, practicing my kicking this morning, and driving in, I was thinking about the kick, and what would I have done differently, and if I have a kick in that same position, what will my thought process be slightly different? And but the mental part of the game, is getting bigger and bigger, and like even before a match, for example, like I'd schedule, a lot of our games are in the evening, but I'd schedule in maybe a walk. I'd go out and walk Dunleary Pier, and I'd be visualising what I'm going to do in the game that night, and that could be down to tackles I'm going to make, or passes I'm going to execute, all the way down to my full routine when I'm place kicking. So then when I get to the game, I feel like I've already played it in my mind.
Right.
So
and have you, because Padraig Harrington, a guy, tons of experience, 3 majors, we know how thoughtful and intelligent he is. He was even talking recently that he's still not happy with his pre-shot routine. Now, in some ways, he may never be happy with anything he does. He's just that type of character. But are you happy with your kicking routine? Are you happy with the level you've reached? I know you worked with Enda McNulty as well.
Yeah, like I've worked very closely with Enda and Richie Murphy, and what we worked towards was just decluttering everything. So when I'm practicing, in the RDS today, and there's no one around, the process that I'm going through is the exact same process that I'm going to go through in a match. So when I'm standing over the kick and I've got 2 cues that I'm concentrating on, it's going to be the exact same when I'm playing in the Aviva, against Bath. I'll be standing over the kick thinking of those exact same 2 things. I'm not going to be thinking, Jesus, this is such a big occasion, there's 50,000 people here. If you do that, you just completely tighten up. Whereas if you have a routine that you can rely on, it calms your nerves, and you can go about it.
I was reading about it recently. Matthew Saeed, the columnist for The Times, and he played table tennis for Great Britain as well, calls it expert-induced amnesia, where you do something without thinking about it in training all the time, pop it over, and then when you're in the nervous situation, you start consciously trying to think about it and take control of it. And that's not how you've practiced for the last 10 years. So you're almost like back to your 18-year-old self, trying to take control of the situation again, and that's a scary place to be.
Yeah, like you want it to happen as naturally as possible. Like, I'm sure it's strange when you're passing, you're not thinking, I've got to get my hands through this ball. You're just catching and letting it happen naturally, because you've done it, millions of times.
It is. Like, it's a case, I suppose I'm a bit more practiced at it than you do in the game, but it's like when you're learning, like with anything, you're looking at your hand positioning on the ball, you look at your foot position, your body height, the finishing position of your arms, and getting through the ball, and all of these little bits. And you can, when you're learning, and you can overanalyze it, and you can, if you focus on one little bit, then you'll forget about the next bit. But it's just repetition and practice, and you get into that kind of routine. Once you're doing the right thing initially, then it's just to keep going with it and keep going with it and keep practicing at that, and eventually then it just becomes second nature too.
So say for instance 2009 Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, and you're throwing the ball to Ronan O'Gara for the drop goal.
Yeah.
Are you again a little bit nervous? It's hard to make that just like any other throw. You don't want to screw that one up.
No, the one thing about that was I wasn't nervous about the pass. I was more nervous about Rory Best ran around in between just as I was about to pass it first time. Probably did. But what you're worried about are probably the external things that can affect that pass. So whether someone's foot is on the ball, or the Welsh counter ruck a small bit, and they shunt one of my own second rows back on top of me. Something else that I suppose you're not used to when you practice kind of day to day. The actual routine of the pass isn't the issue.
Okay.
That is locked in place and you know what you're doing. It's everything else. I suppose you delay the timing of the pass. You know, the Welsh are obviously looking to charge down the ball, so the timing is crucial. But the actual, I suppose, physical act of passing the ball to the target is the routine part of it.
What's funny is I have no idea if you threw a good pass or not. I would know if you hadn't. Or if
it was actually slightly too high for what I think. Even though it was right in line with Raj, it was probably a bit too high, in that he had to catch it and just lower it a small bit to get it kind of to his foot positioning. If it was something, I suppose, if it was a small bit lower, the snap would have been a bit quicker to the drop. But yeah, we won't worry about that now. It went over. So
it's an amazing moment, though. It's great actually to hear you describe it. Did he ever say it back to you? Pass was a bit high.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. If he missed it, he would have. Yeah. It would have been my fault if he missed it.
Yeah, amazing stuff. We've got Ian Madigan and Peter Stringer with us here, looking ahead to Leinster against Bath, Aviva Stadium, 4th of April. It's a game you'll be able to see live here on the Setanta Sports Pack. So we're going to get some final thoughts from the lads in just a minute. Yeah, you're very welcome back. Final part of our discussion with Ian Madigan and Peter Stringer. We're looking ahead to the European Champions Cup quarter-final. Leinster against Bath is on the 4th of April. Aviva Stadium, it's a game you can see here on the Setanta Sports Pack. And just before the break, if you're just tuning in, Peter Stringer, it was brilliant for you to in-depth describe the most famous pass in Irish rugby. I'd never really heard you speak about it much. And during the ad break, you were just giving him some tips on you know, for when you guys play together next season, how you like your passes. But you were saying high, he was, again, for people tuning in, Peter was saying high, low. It was a bit high for O'Gara. And you were kind of saying, high's okay, high's not the end of the world. Yeah.
Like if it's slightly higher, slightly low, it's not too bad. But if it was to the side, you go from having to only take one step to suddenly having to take 3 steps to take the kick. And you know, when you've got the likes of Alan Wynne-Jones tearing down at you, 2 extra steps for you is 2 extra steps for him, and you know it's the small margins, and you can be blocked down. So
it's an art and a science on itself. I saw Brian O'Driscoll do a piece on BT Sport 1 where he was talking about the runners closing down the out half, that they shouldn't run at him. They run a metre to the right. Say if you're kicking off your right foot, they'll run a metre to the right to get you.
Yeah.
All that's going on.
I hope they don't do that to me.
What kind of game are we going to see at the Aviva on April 4th? It's a season-defining game, really, for both sides in many ways. Yeah,
I think it's going to be a brilliant game. You know, you've the likes of George Ford, John Joseph, and Anthony Watson coming off brilliant form from the Six Nations, and Bath play a really good brand of rugby. And
do you like playing at the Aviva for Leinster?
Yeah, I really enjoy playing in the RDS, but I think when we move to the Aviva, it's definitely gets up to notch. You know, you're going to have, I'd say we'll have close to having 50,000 people there. It's a really fast track. It's a big pitch, so no, I think it suits both teams to hopefully put on a really good game.
Yeah. What's been the mood in Bath ahead of this game, Peter?
Yeah, it's been, I suppose we're coming off the back of a few defeats in the Premiership.
Yeah.
You know, we have missed the lads who are playing for England, and you know they're doing really well. Like Ian said, it'd be great to get them back for it. Yeah, but it's huge for the club. I suppose when I first started watching rugby in the UK, it was Bath were the team in the 90s that were winning championships and won the Heineken Cup back in the day. So the club and the city, they're so excited about getting back to that level again. They've been in the second tier European competition for a number of years, but this really is, I suppose, is back to where they want to be on the European stage. So it's a huge occasion. Obviously, the Premiership is massive over in the UK, and we've a game this weekend. But there's obviously one eye on the Leinster game, which will be, it's going to be difficult. I fully know you know, Leinster and their achievements in Europe, and what a great place to play in the Aviva is. But certainly guys are really excited about it and can't wait to get it on.
It's been kind of a frustrating season for Leinster. In some ways, you're your own worst enemy, because your team has set such incredible standards, and if you're not instantly meeting them, then there's a lot of negative talk, certainly in the media anyway. We spoke a couple of months ago and you were saying maybe the set piece at times wasn't great, sometimes confidence here and there wasn't great to really stretch teams and get back play going. Has it been frustrating on the inside? Has it been tetchy? Because there's such a winning culture there, I guess you guys can't be happy.
Yeah, no, there has been times when it has been frustrating, but I think the change in the Guinness Pro 12 this year to have that you have to qualify for Europe has definitely made the league more competitive. And you know, it's much harder to win on the road than it was, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Right.
And you know, then there's been a knock-on effect of that, of teams that we were, you know, almost expected to beat, you know, were beating us, and we haven't quite got the momentum that we've had in previous seasons, but there's definitely a belief, you know, in the team that we can hit form and you know, hopefully finish the the business end of the season, hopefully hit form and go on a good win of games.
Yeah. Like, I presume it hasn't been as doom and gloom a scenario within the camp.
No, like when I'm sure Strings knows as well. Like when you're inside and you're experiencing it yourself, when things are going really well, people don't get carried away with themselves, and when things are going very badly, it's not like people are running around the place going mental either. You know, we've a great coach there in Matt O'Connor, and the squad has full belief in the direction he's taking us. So with that in place, you know, we still think that we're in a good position, you know, at this stage in the season.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for being with us. Best of luck, Peter, wherever you end up next season. I'm sure we'll talk to you in the meantime. April 4th is when Leinster Bath is on at the Aviva Stadium. As the lads were saying, it should be a brilliant game, and if you can't make it to the stadium yourself,